It's open.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's gone off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 135 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Paul, and today I am joined by two random people who I just decided to have on because, well, they had nothing else to do, and I felt sorry for them, to be honest. They are Anthony and Chris from the Sci-Fi Wise Guys. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm also doing well.
Good. Glad to hear you're not, at the end of your rope, because that would make a very depressing episode, I think. So, especially given the subject matter, actually. But yes. Well, today we're here to talk about Good Omens, in case you aren't looking at the episode title. Written by Neil Gaiman, the TV series, anyway. The book was written by both Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Terry Pratchett, very sadly, passing away from early onset Alzheimer's before this TV show got made. And every episode directed by Douglas McKinnon. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, I wanted to ask you guys, what was your experience with Good Omens before we decided to do an episode on it?
Chris, I'll let you. Oh, okay. We're arguing over who gets to go first.
I'll rock, paper, scissors for you. I think I was very interested in it the very first time I had heard of it, and I like the actors in it. We can just go ahead and talk about Michael Sheen, David Tennant. We'll get into them, but no, I was very interested. I just didn't get around to watching it until you suggested it. So,
very much the opposite. I logged in. For our podcast, we watch a lot of things on Amazon Prime Video, which is, of course, where Good Omens is hosted as an Amazon Prime original or Prime Video original. So I was in there all the time. Saw the banner, saw Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and said, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and clicked it. Watched the first episode. Decided not to watch the second episode until my girlfriend got home, and then said, "Hey, you have to watch this with me." And then we watched all 6 episodes in a day, in an evening, really. So that would have been, I think it was very shortly after it aired. I believe it aired first, 2019. So right away, loved it. Had no idea the book existed going into it. Of course, found out about that afterwards, like reading about it. I do have the book. I also own a copy of the audiobook. I have read exactly 0 lines from it. I had intended I went actually and bought the book when the topic of this podcast first came up. So this has kind of been sitting on the burner for a couple of months, I feel. So
yeah.
I kept putting it off, and even yesterday I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that thing tomorrow. Maybe I'll read some of the book, and it didn't happen. So it still will happen eventually. It just hasn't yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you that there are some differences between the TV show and the book. They definitely made a few changes here and there. I will say, without giving anything away, most of the changes are from the latter half. So I think that when you read it, you'll definitely get several bits from it that are very familiar, and some things are even pretty much beat for beat the same. But I think you'll enjoy it because it's definitely a different version of the same story. And yeah, I think this was the only collaboration between Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And frustratingly, they had sketched out an idea for a second book and they had ideas for that. Obviously, did not come to fruition at all before Terry Pratchett's death, but they are making a second series. So I say they are making. I believe they've already filmed it. So
that's supposed to come out this year at some point. I believe.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's either due to come out towards the end of this year or the very beginning of next year. So, I believe they have already wrapped principal photography on that. So,
very interesting.
But yeah, and as you mentioned, definitely Michael Sheen, David Tennant, fantastic in it. And I would say my overall experience with this was I had read the book. Probably about 15 years before the show came out, because that was way back when I was reading pretty much everything that Terry Pratchett was putting out. There were definitely a few of the younger books that I have not touched on, but the entire Discworld canon, with the exception of a few of the Tiffany Aiken books, I've read, and then I read Good Omens. I've also read the entire Long Earth series, it would probably be right to say that Terry Pratchett is my favorite author. There's definitely a few other people that are up there, but Terry Pratchett. I don't think anyone can hold a candle to that guy's writing. So yes, I heartily recommend you read that book.
Noted,
and then
for sure.
And then when they announced that the series was coming out, I was like, okay. I mean, Neil Gaiman's attached. He was heavily involved. He even wrote the screenplay for it. So I was like, okay, if one of the authors of the book is the screenwriter, and that he'd been on record many, many, many times about how he wanted to bring what Terry Pratchett had told him he wanted to the screen, then I had no real concerns about it. And then they mentioned who was in it, and I was like, I'm definitely on board, because David Tennant is my Doctor, for anyone who is a Doctor Who fan, and all of the other people that are in it, I was like, they've got some serious names in this thing, including some that you don't even really know are in it unless you actually go and look at the cast list. Because I mean, like, you've got like John Hamm is in it, who obviously is huge in America, and was probably a really great get for them. You got Francis McDormand as the voice of God, who's the narrator for the series. A couple of English people. Jack Whitehall was a real surprise to me, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
A couple of English people. I like how you skim by half the cast list there.
Can I give a special shout out, if I may?
Sure.
Famine, played by one Yusuf Gatewood, did some work on the originals, which is a show that I have seen every episode of with my wife. It's her sci-fi, and he's in a bunch of those episodes. He's great. So.
The one that I actually did not know until today is that Benedict Cumberbatch is in this.
Yeah, he plays the voice of Lucifer.
He is
Satan.
Is the voice of Satan himself. Yeah. I did not realize that when I was watching the show.
I actually think I paused it when he started talking, and Prime Video does that whole thing. It pops up and tells you on the screen. He's like, "Yep, there it is, Benedict Cumberbatch." That's what I thought.
Yeah, it was just.
So he's Smaug, Sherlock,
yes,
Satan.
Yeah, I think that might have been the first time I've correctly pronounced his name on a recording. So this is a special occasion.
Yes, as opposed to butternut crinkle fries, or as all of the other meme ways of doing it.
Yes, I would say that was a very PG way of saying his name. Yes.
There's Go ahead.
Oh, so speaking of the cast list, I think John Hamm is the one who I think probably surprised everyone by showing up on screen, just because of who he is, and he's kind of, even if you don't know who he is, he's kind of that guy. Like, oh, that guy. Like I know him. He's in the other 14 things I've seen in the last few years. But the one cast or the one actor that stood out to me that made me kind of point at the screen was Muriel Enos as War. She had previously played the lead role in The Killing, which was a crime drama series where they're investigating she's a detective investigating a murder over the course of 3 or 4 seasons of television. So I loved her in that. I've seen her in a few other things, but she popped up on screen. I was very happy to see her still working and doing other things. So, and I thought she did a great job of it. All of the Horsemen, really, just kind of creepy and there.
Oh yeah,
you didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah,
yeah. I was curious what they were going to do with Death, and we'll actually get into a little bit of the real meat of the show. But this one I wanted to bring up because for people who do not know the Terry Pratchett books, Death is a character in the Discworld series. Because many sort of belief systems exist on the disc, and Death is an anthropomorphic personification of death. So he is a literal skeleton who wears a robe, carries a scythe, and rides a white horse called Binky. And he goes and he will take your life at the end of your life. He doesn't kill you. He's just there to take you. When I realized that Death was going to be in this series, I was wondering, because the Death in the Good Omens book speaks in exactly the same format as he does in the Terry Pratchett books, which is all capitals. So I wasn't sure if they were going to go the same with it. And there are some Discworld adaptations that exist out there, Going Postal, Hogfather, and Color of Magic. There might be one more, but I'm blanking right now. And they all have Death, and he is a skeleton in a robe with a scythe who has a horse called Binky. So it's like, okay, the only difference in this is he rides a motorbike. But I was trying to be like, are they going to go for it? Are they not? And obviously they didn't. I was... I had that twinge of sadness that it wasn't that Death, but I fully understood why they didn't do it, because it's different enough that it would have kind of taken a lot of people out of it if they didn't know the origin of that. So I appreciate it.
Do you think that Death being portrayed the same way in Good Omens is hinting at it kind of sharing a universe with Discworld, or do you think that it's just an homage to Discworld?
Yeah, and I'm not sure because he's definitely different. That obviously the Death in this, the only thing that you really see of him is that he basically is a skeleton head. You know that for sure, but you don't know anything else. So the rest of him could be more human, whereas the Death in the Discworld is. He is a skeleton. That is pretty much his defining feature. He is all skeleton.
I'll just go ahead and just chop it up to because in Discworld, they're just on the back of a turtle. So who's to say that Earth isn't out there in the cosmos? So
there actually is, for reasons only known to Terry Pratchett, he did 4 books where the wizards at Unseen University are observing a kind of what they call it's either a pocket universe or a mirror dimension or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact framing of it, but it's our universe, it's our Earth. So they're actually witnessing our technology and trying to figure out what the hell's going on, like how we're getting anything to work. And the idea behind it was it's kind of a way for him to discuss different technology that existed at the time and kind of like how those things work and delving into that a little bit, but through the framing structure of the wizards are trying to figure out, like, we've made this experiment and now this world exists, let's see what's going on. I think it was called The Science of Discworld. Pratchett books are just phenomenal, and so I was very pleased when I heard this was coming out and that it was going to be fairly loyal to the books.
That should make sense.
Yeah, I guess. So I guess I should ask then. Obviously, you mentioned that you watched one episode and you were like, "I'm going to pause. I'm going to get my wife to watch it." What?
Oh, girlfriend.
What do you think?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
Don't
Sorry.
do that to me.
Girlfriend.
What are you doing, Paul?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay, significant other.
There you go. Thank
How
you.
about that?
Thank you.
Partner.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just say it like 3 different ways. I'll go back.
There you
and
go.
I'll
Just confuse everything. Just confuse everything.
But in fact, I'll change gender. So your boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So your significant other. You felt that they had to watch it with you. What was it about the first episode that when you were just like, you know what? Yeah, we got to sit down and watch this.
It is so incredibly clever. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of, whether it's other sci-fi or fantasy or just anything that any sort of drama or serialized television that kind of it holds the audience hand a little too tightly, right? It kind of almost talks down to them. And I feel like this show doesn't do that. It assumes a certain level of intelligence in the audience. It doesn't insult that intelligence, and it's just very, very clever. I mean, I was hooked from the joke about the start time of the universe. Like, when did God create the universe? It was exactly like 9:14 a.m. on whatever day it was. I don't recall, but like as soon as they said that joke, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. You know, like this is great. This is, like I said, just so clever, so fun. It's dealing with incredibly heavy subject matter. I mean, it's the end of the universe. It's good versus evil. Yeah. It's the concepts thereof. What is humanity? What is good? What is evil? But it's so lighthearted. Just the overall, I just guess the way it's packaged, with the narration, the way that people talk and interact with one another. It's very Neil Gaiman, but it's very, very good. And I think that's what initially made me think, oh, this is something that I have to share because I'm going to want to watch it again, or I'm going to want to talk about it with somebody. So they're going to have to, watch it with me. And she loved it as well, which is good. Besides that, I'm a big fan of anything that, any sort of like modern retelling or reimagining of any sort of religious subject matter. Whether or not it's something like this that is kind of reimagining Judeo-Christian beliefs, angels and demons and what have you, in a very kind of Hollywood way, or what is like the Percy Jackson books. Where it's just a modern retelling of Greek mythology. Just anything that takes kind of those types of ideas and stories and spins them in a new way, I find very, very attractive. So this show is very much made for me, I felt. And David Tennant was my doctor for a long time. He's not my doctor anymore, unfortunately. I have to say I have a new favorite. But for a very long time, if you didn't have to twist my arm, he was my doctor, and I loved him. In Doctor Who, I loved him in Jessica Jones. Later on, playing a very different character. And so just seeing him and just do his thing, I was in. Like even if the rest of it wasn't there, I was like, yeah, I'll watch this for David Tennant. We'll do this.
Yeah, I mean David Tennant, he really runs the gamut. Him as Kilgrave in Jessica Jones. I mean, I don't think there's been a better villain in a Marvel property.
I didn't even know it was him until and they have shots of him in the shadows and you hear his voice, but it's so creepy and different. I didn't realize it was David Tennant until he's standing there yelling Jessica's name like 3 or 4 episodes in. Completely caught me off guard. Loved it.
Spoilers.
And that's a rabbit hole that's a whole other property and TV show.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I do. I've said this many times before. I'll mention it again here. So I myself am an atheist, and I know Terry Pratchett also is an atheist. I'm moderately confident Neil Gaiman, if he's not an atheist, he is at the very least along the cynical of organized religion route. And I find it very interesting that that this book and this series was able to point out the sort of ridiculousness of a lot of what's in there, but at the same time is not disrespectful of the subject matter or anything like that. It's kind of actually along the same lines as I mean, it. I say along the same lines. The same kind of thing could be said of the Book of Mormon. You know, with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, like they very clearly are being like, look at how silly this all is, but at the same time, they're genuinely not like putting them down or anything like that. It's just like there's ridiculous stuff here, but you know,
I think there's a lot to be said where you can when you put things like into context or you take them, you know, literally, like, oh yeah, no, this is totally how it happened, guys, like, and you know, like, there just so happens to be some dancing, you know, and singing, but same thing with this show, like where they go through, you know, the Book of Revelations, right, leading all up into the you know, Armageddon, and we're laughing the whole time, like serious. Anthony, oh, never mind. I'll just say it. I'm also fairly well along the atheist line there, so I really enjoy anything that lampoons anything, not just organized religion. It's just such an easy target. But so
yeah. I mean, I will say, jumping really quickly back to the joke you said that kind of made it for you, the whole thing about this one person said that the universe began at 10 a.m. on this date, and it said he was of course wrong by 15 minutes. It's like that to me felt actually almost Douglas Adams-esque kind of humor. Like it's a very like I would say that's a very English joke. Like it's something. It's just that dry delivery of that line. Like it feels very English writing and humor to me. And I don't know. Like I'd say I'm glad that you liked it, but there has actually been one person who so far has been relatively quiet about whether or not you enjoyed the first episode. So,
oh, me? Oh no, I liked all of it. I really did. I mean, okay. I said that whole thing about it. I mean, what I meant by like, hey, let's watch this show. It wasn't like, oh, this guy's forcing me. He's twisting my arm. It was just like, hey, this is a show that I'd heard about. I heard a lot of good things. Anthony and I like to present the facts. So Good Omens on IMDb. We're sitting at 8.0 out of 10 based on 74,000 ratings.
Interesting.
I'd say that's probably a little low for me. I'd say this is for me. This show's like a 9.5. It's the right amount of episodes. I think they're all the perfect length. I never felt like I was being dragged through this.
Right.
It moved you along really well. Like even when it's jumping through the different timelines, and when they're going over, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I binged it all in the morning when one Saturday or something. I was like, I watched the first episode and then I was like, yeah. And then that Saturday I watched all of them and I was like, okay, this is a lot of fun. Yeah. So yeah,
it does not overstay its welcome.
No,
at all. It feels very deliberately crafted. Well, I called it clever a moment ago. It's everything about it is clever. It's almost more impressive that something like this got greenlit and made without a lot of, or what seems to be not a lot of studio or production house interference, than anything else.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to me. Like when this got made, I genuinely was worried that there would be a certain amount of the studio had some notes that tend to happen with these sort of things. Yeah. And I was a little worried that there might be like
too much meddling.
Yeah, like there might maybe there were some compromises made here and there that might have just changed some things, but no, I very much enjoyed where they went with it in these things, and there's so many little nods to things in this. And one thing that I clocked, but it didn't necessarily register with me until I was looking up stuff about this. There is someone in this who is impersonating the voice of Terry Pratchett, and he's like a spokesman for an electricity board. I can't remember which episode it is, but like that voice is pretty much dead on Terry Pratchett. So
is it when he like breaks all the computers at that job?
I think so. So it's yeah, I can't. I'd had to go back and watch it, which absolutely not a chore. I'll happily go back and rewatch this. I'm almost finished watching the third series of The Boys, so once I'm done with that, I might just go back and rewatch this just cause. But yeah, no, there's a great number of things that also for anyone that knows Terry Pratchett at all, anyone that's seen a picture of him in like his last 20 years of life, he always had a wide-brimmed black hat and a scarf, and both of them are in Aziraphale's bookshop. And there's even a shot where it's kind of panning over stuff and it pauses for just a second, like that's his hat. Because Neil Gaiman got his hat and scarf from Terry Pratchett's daughter so that he could put it into the shot for that scene.
Nice.
So yeah, they really wanted to treat it with the care that it deserved.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that it is different than the book, and I'm glad also that you still liked the show. I think that I mean, there's two ways you can go, right? You change too much, and then it might as well not be based off of the source material. You don't change enough, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I read this. Didn't necessarily need to watch it. And then it sounds like it's kind of hit that sweet spot for you, which is kind of that Lord of the Rings sweet spot. Where it's adapted enough to where it's entertaining, but it didn't change too much, and we didn't spend 14 pages walking out of the Shire, but yeah.
Is that the Peter Jackson line?
Yes, it now is called the Peter Jackson line. We just invented that.
Commissioned a bit.
Yes, we just commissioned a bit. You're welcome.
I mean, yeah, like seriously though, yeah, I think like, can you name a single like adaptation that hit that so perfectly before Lord of the Rings?
I mean, there was the animated Lord of the Rings. So
there was, which I believe had a wonderful song by Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. No, I mean not really to my knowledge, but I also can't think of any large or big adaptations.
I mean, even not even thinking something that large, like genuinely, like anything that I'm trying to think of anything else that I know has been adapted, and it's like, and it's everyone's actually happy with it, you know.
I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for a lot of people, but I think Lord of the Rings probably started, I wouldn't say started. I think Lord of the Rings really jump-started that whole adaptation frenzy. Yeah, there have been some Marvel movies, and Superman, whatever, but not only was Lord of the Rings the first one to be really successful, but it's also the one that everything is judged afterwards. So it's really hard. There isn't anything before that.
Are you trying to say that if it wasn't for Lord of the Rings, I wouldn't have had to seen those Narnia movies? Is that what so you're trying to tell me there was a negative thing that happened from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings? Got it.
I mean, I absolutely refuse to believe that Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings has any bearing whatsoever on the Avatar: The Last Airbender adaptation, because just no.
no, but what I'm saying is they clearly didn't meet the Peter Jackson line.
No, they did not. They failed in every
floundered.
way.
No,
they floundered so well.
And to kind of switch mediums a little bit, did you know that there was a Minority Report television show?
No.
Yeah, in
I have no
2015,
idea.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
2015, they made a sequel. It was like a pseudo sequel to the 2002 Tom Cruise Minority Report, in which they turned it into a serialized crime detective drama, like every other show. That is I felt like there was a long time in the mid 2010s where everything was a crime detective drama.
NCIS,
Wait,
CSI,
wait.
CSI Miami,
Well,
CSI New
not
York,
even just those,
CSI
but like
New Orleans.
Bones, which then Castle. The main character is an author. It's still a serialized crime drama. Yeah.
But hang on, you said it was a sequel or like a pseudo sequel?
Yes, one of the main characters.
But how? I mean, spoilers for Minority Report.
So
but
okay, spoilers for Minority Report.
At the end of Minority Report, there's no such thing as the precogs division anymore. How the hell did they turn it into a procedural?
One of the kids that was the precogs, he's now an adult, and he still sees the future, and he teams up with some detective, and they fight crime together. Look, it only got 10 episodes. I didn't say it was good. I just said it existed, and that's what they did to it. So when you see that they're going to be adapting Good Omens, and not into the silver screen, not in the an actual movie, but into television, I'm just saying they could have done anything with it. I think Neil Gaiman being involved probably kept it on the straight and narrow, and he has the juice. If they tell him no and he says no, this is what we need, and he goes public, or he just says, oh well, this was if it goes badly, he can blame somebody else, the studio, whomever, and I would believe him. Everyone would believe him. He has that kind of credibility.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you know about the Terry Pratchett estate. So his estate is now being run by his assistant of, I think he had the same assistant for like 20-something years. And so like that guy now runs the estate with Terry Pratchett's daughter, so that they're the ones that get to sign off on any rights and stuff like that. The only thing that they didn't necessarily sign off on it, because it was not a direct adaptation in any way. The Watch TV series, which was inspired by The Watch, and I will say I watched it all. I didn't hate it, but it took me 2 episodes to break myself of that. This is a terrible adaptation of the book, because it's not an adaptation of the books. They basically took character names and general ideas and then changed it into whatever this world that they're doing is. And it's almost like a gritty cyberpunk kind of version of it, but instead of being cyberpunk, it's sort of slightly high fantasy setting. So it's
I looked it up. I just looked it up on. I had not watched this. I didn't know anything about it. Just looked it up at the first line on Wikipedia. The Watch is a fantasy police procedural television program. There you go.
Yeah.
Everything can become a police procedural. Anything and everything.
Now I will say, it had to be a police procedural, as it were, because the Watch books are about the City Watch, which is the city police force. So,
so they get a pass, is what you're saying on this one?
I'll say that one, it's a police procedural because it's about the police.
That's the part that they based it on.
Yeah,
specifically.
Then if it wasn't a police procedural, they would have missed the marks so much.
So they were like, "We need a new police procedural." Oh, I got something for you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, I mean, if you are able to completely shut off the part of yourself that's like, I love the books and this is absolutely not the books, you can somewhat enjoy it. But a lot of people that really love Terry Pratchett can't do that. So, bring it back to this series. Like Neil Gaiman did a fantastic job of adapting their book and the general feel of the book to the series. It's such a I mean, I can't say enough good things about it, to be perfectly frank. Now, I guess I should ask, aside from Aziraphale and Crowley, who is your favorite character in the show?
Ooh. Besides the two best characters in the show.
Yes, besides the two that anyone will pick. Who's your favorite character?
No. They're not the best character in this show. Where is he? Michael McKean. Shadwell. That dude chewed up every single scene that he was in. Like, I mean, just every time, like his interactions with the Jezebel, like when he points his finger at Michael Sheen and he just like he backs into that little thing, he disappears, and he's like, I've got a weapon of mass destruction for the rest of the show. No, he killed it. Like, and his like as it like I just want to say personally, the Pulsifer little timeline, like that little side story, I think is probably one of my favorite side stories, I think, in television, like that I've seen in the past like 5 or 6 years. Like the whole thing, like I went deep on Pulsifer. Did you know that Beaumont, Texas was started by 3 people, Henry Millard, Thomas Byers Hooling, and Joseph Pulsifer? That's how far I went, because I wanted to know everything I could about this name. But no, I think that whole thing was great. But Michael McKean definitely, like, he steals every scene that he's in. He's doing a great job. And like the fact that he might be crazy, like when he's reading off the names of the members so he can charge Crowley more, and he's like, Sergeant Washing Machine. Like, like am I the only one? Am I the only one that wasn't like, hold on a second?
Oh yeah, no,
yeah, it was great.
Oh man,
yeah, that absolutely is part of the joke, is that, like, you know, Aziraphale and Crowley, like, they couldn't really care. Like, they don't care enough to actually look at the names. They just want this thing to be working, and of course, like, they're so focused on other things that they don't actually look into it. And of course, if they do, in any way, shape, or form, they would realize that something's off. Which, if you think about it, is exactly the same thing that they're doing to their higher ups. Yep. Because they said they're just kind of signing off, saying they've done things, and then no one ever bothers to check. So, like, it's
incompetence all the way up.
I think the moral of the story is that, like, middle management just isn't needed, right? Like, that's. Am I the only? I'm just saying, like,
hey, as a proud former member of middle management, you're probably right. Yes.
No, I thought their story was great. Yeah. So
I was going to. I kind of want to change my answer to be Michael McKean. I was going to say Miranda Richardson as Madame Tracy, for all of the same reasons. She's it's for a character. I mean, there's only 6 episodes of this, so it's less than 6 hours long, because each episode comes out at 50 some odd minutes, and then there's credits. Right? There's a theme title and then credits. So there's not a lot of screen time, even for our main cast. I wanted to know more about her. Out of all of the other characters, I was like, I could use more Madame Tracy. Get like her interaction. Like, how did she meet Michael McKean's character? How did he get Shadwell? And I wanted to know, like, how did she become the person she is? Because she's fantastic. Like, she just kind of takes his verbal abuse and is like, oh, I'll put some tea on, or hey, do you want lunch, or whatever it is. I really, and then the fake out, I think it's, sorry, we're getting deep into spoilers here. For anyone who, for whatever reason, is listening to this and hasn't watched the show yet, you should stop and just go watch it. This, your podcatcher will actually pause right here, and you can come right back. No big deal. When he's like, well, I guess I should ask you the question, huh? And it's like, oh, he's going to ask her to marry him. I can't say it, but yes, like it was fantastic. Their interactions are amazing. I think between the two of them, the excellent side story or B story there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another another example of just like great casting in this. And yeah, Miranda Richardson, for American people who may be less familiar with Miranda Richardson, probably most recognized by younger people, I would say, as Rita Skeeter in the Harry Potter films.
Oh, yeah.
Probably most well known by a lot of English people as Queenie in Blackadder. And yeah, to see her doing a role like this, which is definitely more subtle than those. I mean, anyone that's seen the second series of Blackadder will know that Queenie is just, I mean, batshit insane. She just is. So, like, to have her playing a much more sort of subdued role and doing it so well, and then, again, dipping into spoilers as well, being able to play Aziraphale at the same time. Like, just, yeah, it's fantastically done.
This comes up quite a bit when I'm discussing movies, whether it's for podcast or not, but when an actor has to play a different character, or an actor has to play a different actor playing a different character, it can go really poorly very quickly. Like when you kind of do the Freaky Friday thing, it can very, very quickly end up with just breaking all immersion. It's like, that's not that person. Yeah. This is a joke. This is a poor imitation. But no, it does not go that way at all. She's a fantastic Michael Sheen. Who knew? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things where it's like, I'd say one of the best examples of what you just described that I've seen before is actually, again, in Harry Potter. And it's, and I had to look this up because a little while ago I was trying to think about it and I looked it up. So the scene where, spoilers for Harry Potter, Hermione is using the Polyjuice potion to pretend to be Bellatrix Lestrange, and for that scene, Emma Watson watched Helena Bonham Carter go through the scene as Bellatrix Lestrange. She then did the scene as Hermione pretending to be Bellatrix Lestrange, and so then Helena Bonham Carter went and did the scene again. So it's Helena Bonham Carter imitating Emma Watson as Hermione, imitating Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange in that scene, and she does that fantastically. And it was the same in this. Like it was so good to see Miranda Richardson really going for it, and I very much enjoyed some of the things that were in this. That actually, this will be interesting for me anyway. So when I read books, I do not get pictures in my head of what I'm reading. I cannot picture something in my head I have not seen before. So whenever someone, you get those things where like there's a book, there's loads of descriptions about characters, and so people always have pictures in their heads of what the characters look like, and then whenever there's an adaptation, people go, well, that's not the person I would have had for my character because it says this and this. Like, for me, just don't.
Your headcanon, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have that. I can't picture the locations that these people go to, anything like that. I'm just reading the story and enjoying the story. That's what happens. So, so when I saw this, like this for me is now going to be like what I see as I'm reading the book, and I very much enjoy that. But I was going to ask, since one of you, I apologize, I do not remember which one of you it was, has the book now.
Yes.
Do you think you're going to have the same thing? Like you're going to read the book and you're going to see David Tennant and Michael Sheen as these characters, as the thing's going on?
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially since I've seen the show before the book. Right. It doesn't really matter how they describe them. I'll think about it when that comes up, and then I immediately will replace it with David Tennant and Michael. There's no way. There's no way not to. They are those characters to me.
You can't disassociate.
No, I don't. No, come on. Now. You know I have no imagination. I can't disassociate that at all.
Paul, do you have an inner monologue?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no inner monologue, and as in, like, yeah, I don't just have thoughts going in my head during the day, and I also don't hear myself when I'm thinking. So, yeah, no, I just have nothing.
I have the exact opposite of that, where I won't shut up in my own head. So,
yeah,
very
my wife has that, and it's very interesting because you know the stereotype of if you ask a man what they're thinking and they just say nothing. Like, for me, that's true. Like, I'm genuinely like, if I'm sitting watching TV, I'm just watching TV. If I'm sitting like just kind of waiting for something to happen, I'm not thinking of anything. I'm just waiting for something to happen. Like, there's just nothing there. And then my wife has many times. Like, she'll be clearly thinking of something, so I'll ask her what she's thinking, and she'll rattle off like 10 different things and say, "Oh, that sounds busy."
Yes.
Yeah,
I definitely have. I'll say there's on just nothing, and then at least a couple of friends or significant others in the past were like, no, really, what are you thinking? And I was like, all right, well, you asked, like, here it is. And they're like, oh, and I said, next time I'm probably just going to say nothing. And they're like, yeah, okay. I didn't need to know all of that. I'm like, I know you didn't. I didn't either.
That's why I said nothing.
Yes, exactly. So who was, we mentioned a couple of characters we really enjoyed besides our two mains. Who did you enjoy the most?
I've been trying to think about this, and I was definitely leaning towards Shadwell. I mean, such a fantastic character, and as you mentioned, the scenery chewing is just mwah with him. But one thing that I actually really enjoyed was, and I'm trying to remember, it's Anathema. I really enjoyed the person who played Anathema. I thought she did a fantastic job, and you can definitely tell based on the characterization and the way that she's kind of presenting herself. There's a character in the Discworld series who is Death's granddaughter, Susan Stowe-Haley, and very similar. Like, feels very similar. If you end up watching the TV adaptations that were made, over like 10 years ago now, feels very, very much the same. Like, they even look somewhat similar, and it's like, I just really enjoyed watching her character, someone who is absolutely certain of pretty much everything that's going to happen, because they know pretty much everything that's going to happen. They just don't know exactly how it's going to happen. It's such an interesting character, especially as someone myself who I do not prescribe to any sort of idea of destiny or fate or things like that. To see a character who is literally defined by their great ancestors' prophecies. It was very interesting to see, and actually why I enjoyed the end, which I won't specifically mention the exact, like, the very end of the show, even though we've obviously touched on some spoilers, but I want to leave some things for the audience, just in case they haven't gone to watch it and then come back to this. I very much enjoyed her ending, which I guess is no longer going to be her ending, because I think that most of the cast is back for this. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask, how in the world do you make a second season of the show? I don't feel like they ended in any sort of like typical TV show cliffhanger little like we're gonna dangle these little threads at the last minute, so you'll come back in a year or two.
No, they wouldn't have. Again, following the book, that there is like not trying to spoil the book here, but I would say there is something at the end of the book that would leave it open.
Okay.
There is something there. Not, and it's one of those things of like, you're absolutely fine if this is the only book. If this is the only, like, perfectly fine. But they could do another one. Obviously, with this, they pretty much tied up everything in a bow, because I believe originally the plan was it was just going to be one season and done.
Yeah, but money.
But that, well, I genuinely don't believe that Neil Gaiman is sitting there going, I need the money.
Oh, no,
I'm going to touch
no.
on this again.
But the studio, Prime Video, whoever is behind it, I mean, if you have a successful season of television, I mean, this is, we're calling this a series or a season. It's almost a mini series with how short it is.
It was marketed as a limited series, specifically.
Prestige television.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the interesting thing as well is, you'd think if it was something where it was like they knew it was going to be a hit and they were probably working on a deal to get it for a second series, like maybe behind the scenes trying to get it to work. So this came out May 31st, 2019 for Amazon Prime Video. It also aired weekly on BBC Two in the UK.
Oh, okay.
In January and February of 2020. It was officially renewed for a second season in June of last year. So it was just over 2 years after it first aired on Amazon Prime that they announced there would be a second season. So I'm thinking what happened was Neil Gaiman went back and looked at his original notes with Terry Pratchett for what would have been the start of a second book, and he probably went to the Terry Pratchett estate and talked with them and said, here's kind of the idea, what do you think? And because I am absolutely certain that if he had gone to them and said, here's my idea, and they said, that doesn't sound like something Terry would have done, he would have absolutely said no to anything else, because they were very good friends, and they really you would see them kind of together at conventions and things like that, and they very clearly enjoyed each other. So
So you're saying he took we feel like he took the time to get the second season right. Like it was more of, we're not going to commit to this until we know we have something good and everyone's on board.
Yeah, because
no deadlines, that type of thing.
Yeah, David Tennant, Michael Sheen's back. The majority of the same crew and cast. As far as I know, I think at least some of the cast is back as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. And I don't know if it's going to be, maybe it'll straddle like some of the stories from before this happened and then the aftermath. Like seeing what happens then, because I mean, there's a point in the series where Crowley is saying like, so yeah, we're gonna like go to a different part of the universe, right? Like it's gonna go off into the stars.
I hear it's nice in Alpha Centauri this time of year. Yes.
Yeah. Which yeah, so I don't know. Like maybe there'll be some weird, almost Terry Gillingham-esque, like weird sci-fi bit that happens at some point. It's like I honestly have no idea. I'm just intrigued to see what they do with it.
I have no clue what they could do, but I think I trust them to do whatever. I think it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point, David Tennant could probably say no to anything he wants at this point and not work anymore and just live off the royalties of everything that he's done, given that he's been in Doctor Who and Harry Potter and the MCU. So I think for him to agree to come back to the character says a lot. And he I don't know if you've seen many of his interviews and things, like he has said that he will not take something that he does not feel is worth it. So like I have faith that at least going into it, everyone is in the right place and has good intention. But I believe there's also a phrase that might exist regarding good intentions that would be very apt for this series. Something about the road to hell being paved with them.
If it doesn't work out, the very like the cover story of the news article, like that Monday after that episode gets released, it can be called Bad Omens.
Oh, no. I like that you think that they won't have articles about it 20 minutes after it's aired. Side note, I was looking at, because we were discussing Michael McKean, so I was looking at his IMDb page, and apparently we're getting another Spinal Tap movie in 2024.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just in case anyone else didn't know that, and it wasn't just me. I'm just throwing that out there.
Did not know that at all. Nope.
All right. Back to Good Omens. Sorry.
yes. Back to Good Omens.
Can we talk about the thing I noticed in the Deadpool movie the other day? Do you think Paul would be interested?
I mean, if you want to, go for
it. So in that movie, like when Cable's making his gun, he gets he pulls a guitar apart and pulls the dial off of it, and he turns it right before he shoots the Juggernaut. It goes to 11.
Oh yes, the Spinal Tap joke.
Yeah.
That's right.
Maybe everyone else got it before me.
I do feel like it being Deadpool, like he should have turned it to 12.
Yeah, just
one up.
He's
just one upping it. Yeah. I did actually want to ask as well. What did you guys think of Adam? Like, did you? Because I can see this going one of two different ways. Did you? I end up just being annoyed with him because obviously he's very strong-headed and he's a de facto leader because of his heritage and everything. Like, or were you interested to see his arc in the show? Because obviously he gets very, very close to really going over that edge. So, like, what did you think of his character and his arc in the show?
I think I speak for Chris and I when I say that we have a love-hate relationship with child actors. Okay. And that
it sounds wrong.
It does. That does sound wrong.
We love to hate all children, is what you're saying. Okay.
Look, you should. They're kids. They don't have nearly as much experience, the actors, as the adults that they're playing off of. And a lot of times, I think that adults don't know how to write children, and so children end up coming across, even if the acting is good, they end up coming across as much older or wiser than they should. If I've had enough 10-year-olds giving life wisdom, I'm done. As far as Adam, and really the child actors in this show in general, I thought they did pretty well. I think that Adam Young, who plays or not Adam Young, sorry, Sam Taylor Buck, who plays Adam Young, I think he did really well. I think that it's a very one-dimensional character to begin with. Like, how do you give a lot of character arc to this person who's supposed to destroy the world, or maybe they won't? We don't know. We're trying to muddy the waters enough so that they don't, right? I think there's a lot of depth to that character. I think it's a very difficult character to portray. And then, because it's a child, you have a child playing them, there's somebody playing them that's not maybe as experienced as the role demands. I'm trying to very, very diplomatically say that I did not enjoy I didn't enjoy the portrayal of Adam as much as I enjoyed the character, if that makes sense. I appreciated the character of Adam in the larger plot. I liked I liked his character arc. It wasn't the best portrayal. And now I've just trash talked a child actor. on tape. So there's that. I don't know. Chris, you can start talking anytime. You just interrupt me and keep me from saying anything more. And
no. I think what Anthony is also trying to say is like it's sometimes hard to differentiate child actors, like their behavior as a person as opposed to their behavior as as the character that they're playing. Like I'm not contractually obligated to mention Star Wars, but I'm going to. So Jake Lloyd is a famous example of a person who did nothing wrong. Like the actor Jake Lloyd did everything George Lucas asked him to do, and unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like that. Hayden Christensen is another example. Like Anakin Skywalker as an adult, like everyone's like, "Oh, I hated the way I hated the prequels because Darth Vader's a wimp." Like, yeah, he's like young.
He is.
he's young. He's angry. Like he's playing the role he's supposed to be playing.
He's not.
I've
Vader.
never seen because I mean I've seen Hayden Christensen in other things, and I don't necessarily think he's a bad actor, but I've never seen anything else that Sam Taylor Buck has been in. So I can only judge him off this role. What is it? This and Medici? That's it? Okay.
Yeah, he's not done too much, really.
So, I mean, if he's supposed to be playing like a young teenage, the son of Satan, right? So, of course, he's going to be pompous. Of course, he's going to be arrogant. I think he does a really good job doing those things. I didn't tire of his performance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I didn't dislike it. I think the performance matched the character.
yeah.
But
what Chris
but
said.
I can see where Anthony's coming from. Is like it's hard. Like they're a kid, right? Like not everyone is. I mean, I don't want to say Leonardo DiCaprio because it's such a high bar. But what child actor, like that off the top of your head besides him, maybe Kirsten Dunst. She's always done really well. So
Sure.
The ones that make it out of childhood acting are usually the ones who are going to be good actors anyways.
That's fair. The question of whether or not I found the character annoying or what have you, it's he was a bit much at times, but I think he's supposed to be. But I also don't know how much of that is the script and the direction, and how much of that is Mr. Buck. Yeah. It's hard to know.
Right. It's interesting because I have I have an idea for where the genesis of like what his character is supposed to be came from, but the problem is it is so uniquely an English character. I don't know if many people outside of England, and even a fair number of people in England, will know about it. So there was a book series which became, I think it became a radio series as well as a short TV series back in the 90s. I think at some point in the 90s it was a TV series, potentially the 80s. It was called Just William, and the entire premise of it is that William is a kid who is sort of the leader of this group of about 3 or 4 boys, and he is just he's trying to get them to go on adventures. He's trying to do the cool thing, often to the chagrin of his family and his school and anything else that's going on. And
it's like Little Rascal.
Kinda, yeah.
Describing it sounds like Dennis the Menace to me. Would be the kind of American.
Well, Dennis is a solo actor.
That's true. That's true. He is a menace.
Yeah, which is, and for anyone in England that does not know, yes, Dennis the Menace in America is a blonde-headed kid who is who apparently is the arch nemesis of his neighbor, Mr. Wilson, I believe is is the term. Whereas in England, Dennis the Menace is a cartoon character who is originally from a comic strip called The Beano, and he's a kid with black hair who actually doesn't look too dissimilar to Adam in this, and he had a dog called Nasher, and he's just he just gets into trouble a lot, and he always gets out of it in the end, but he gets into trouble a lot. So it really is a sort of an English trope of kids that age just kind of running amok a little bit and thinking, coming up with their own sort of world, and they're the kings of their world, and they'll do what they want to do, despite the fact that the parents are there to be like, no, you can't do that, and then they do it anyway. So I think that was kind of the genesis of it, if I had to guess. Obviously, I'm not Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman. I would be much richer if I was. But yeah, I think that is sort of what they were going for, because obviously the idea ultimately is that he ends up just being a kid. He's just an average kid. He happens to be a leader of his group, because that's just who he is. But he is also just a kid. So, I think that watching it, I was anticipating that the character would end up being too bossy, too early. Because, I knew there would be a point where he comes into his powers, and they kind of take over for a bit. But I figured that he would ultimately be this kid that's just very kind of stuck up in the show. I thought that's the way that they might end up going with it, because that's how a lot of kids are written now. But I felt they hit that line very well. Especially, you even had a scene with the parents where they're like, you told him not to do this thing, right? It's like, well, yes, but it was this, and they're kind of explaining away the thing as that, they're talking about how Adam's just going to get away with stuff because of everything that surrounds him, and you actually got to see that in a fairly natural way with the parents. Speaking of the parents, actually, again, I one of the many things I found out when I was looking into this and the cast. Do either of you two do you watch or have you watched Sherlock?
The BBC.
Yes, the Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman
Absolutely.
Sherlock.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I've seen the first season, and there's two.
Okay,
unless they've aired something new, I think I'm caught up.
On Netflix, they've got all 4 seasons on there.
Okay. Oh, there's 4
seasons.
There's
I'm
4. Not caught up.
Okay. Hang on, let me double check, because I want to make sure I got this right.
Oh, no, feel free to spoil away.
Okay. The mother in this is a major character in the last episode of the 4th season, and I did not realize that until I saw that written down, and then I kind of thought back to the mother in this, and then thought back to that character in the whole season. I was like, holy shit. That very different character. Very, very, very different character. So yeah, I mean, kind of like you had with David Tennant going from the Doctor to Kilgrave. It's like, oh nope, was not expecting that. But yeah, and I was going to let this go, but I can't. Who is your Doctor now?
Oh, Peter Capaldi.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and that didn't happen until I think the last season of Peter Capaldi. And I was like, okay. I think all of it kind of clicked for me. But if I'm in a room full of Doctor Who nerds and I just need to get out safely, I'll say David Tennant.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I will say, Tennant still for me. I fully appreciate Capaldi did a great job.
Oh yeah,
he was fantastic as the Doctor, and he has my favorite opening of any Doctor Who episode that I've seen, and it's very simple, and it is just him asking who wrote Beethoven's Fifth, and he's got the guitar, and it's just very simple, but it's a really interesting idea, and he sells it perfectly.
Oh yeah. If I'm being honest, which I always am, of course. When I'm rewatching Doctor Who, my favorite Doctors, whichever one's on the screen at that time. I love all of them in their own little unique ways. Yeah, very, very big fan. I like it all.
I'm genuinely mad at the perceived lack of love for Christopher Eccleston.
Yes,
because I mean that that man was genuinely phenomenal as the Doctor, and it's not even really a spoiler at this point. He has been spotted in the area that they were filming the 60th anniversary special.
Oh, has he?
He was,
Nice.
yes.
I was really upset when he didn't come back for the 50th. So, I mean, I say really upset. I was disappointed, but understood.
Yeah, and
I think.
oh yeah, like given everything that happened, then I definitely understood. But yeah,
Nope. I love Chris Eccleston.
I don't have a doctor. Sorry, I can't add to it.
It's okay. You don't have to have watched Doctor Who, Chris, because we talked a lot of Harry Potter earlier, and I've never seen Harry Potter, so we all have our things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much living up to the stereotype right now, aren't I? I brought up
I didn't
Doctor Who, Sherlock, and Harry Potter. So, yeah.
I didn't bring it up, but now that you have.
I mean, it's not beyond the pale. I mean, there's, it's just, it's your thing. Don't ever apologize for who you are, Paul.
Oh, I wasn't apologizing. I just said I was living up to the stereotype.
I apologize for where I am every day.
Can I share a Dennis the Menace piece of trivia?
Is it? Sure. It might be the same one I'm staring at.
About how both Dennis the Menaces debuted on the same day in the two different newspapers.
One in the UK, one in the US. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely unrelated.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that Where's Wally debuted in the UK 1 year before Where's Waldo did.
Really?
When they brought it over to America, they changed his name from Wally to Waldo for no reason.
I like Wally.
Yeah. I mean, that's his name. But, it's very... Yeah, it's really odd because, like, since we're talking about TV shows, the Where's Wally TV show, I used to have a VHS of 3 episodes of the Where's Wally TV show, and in England it's called Where's Wally, and they recorded all of the dialogue with Wally instead of Waldo, but I guess over here it was Waldo. So yeah, it's very.
We're sorry.
I mean, I don't apologize. I didn't do anything.
I mean, honestly, at this point, America is just a good experiment that's got out of hand.
No. You should have waited till you left the Midwest before you said that. You got to be careful. But to bring it back around, if you don't mind, to the Good Omens.
We probably should.
I did not expect to start a conversation about Good Omens and end up with Dennis the Menace trivia. I think that's the definition of in the weeds. We're down the rabbit hole and around the corner for sure. I like that I have no idea where the next season's gonna go. I truly appreciate that there was all tied up and with seemingly nowhere else to go. I mean, obviously the characters are all still there, and they're all still very, very interesting. Is there? So I got a question. Is there anything that you don't want to see in a season 2? Is there a character or storyline you'd like to see just stay in season 1 and never come back? Like what would be too much pandering? Adam?
I mean, Adam has to stay in season 1. Like they can't retread that.
You think they just leave him be somewhere?
I mean, they have to. I mean, he literally rewrote everything so that he could just be,
So when he shows up in like episode 5 as a big twist of season 2, like are y'all in? Are you not in? Are you messaging me saying how dare you manifest that?
You know what I think they might do, just because I think they're going to whatever happens throughout the entire series, they're going to go to credits and then they're going to cut back to like Adam either reading a newspaper or something about the thing that's happened and basically commenting on how stupid it was or something. Like he's just going to have this it's just going to be him sitting in his home just realizing something else happened and just kind of being glad he wasn't involved. Like I can see them doing that. Like, they're not going to have him actually be a story point, but they'll bring him back or whatever.
Maybe like a little Easter egg or kind of a little reference or something. Cameo. That's the word I'm looking for. A little cameo.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Was there outside of this isn't just your typical what was your favorite thing question. What was something that stood out to you that like really like realized that there was serious attention to detail? As you know, whether we're amateur, professional, or semi-professional film critics, I guess that's what Anthony and I are now at this point. We like I always look for stuff that's like not on the page, or you know, something that you can really focus in on and say, man, whoever wrote this story, whoever directed this scene, like was really carefully crafting a moment. Do you guys have any of those?
I don't necessarily have anything that specifically stood out to me around that type of thing. Like that, there are so many things, and I think it's such a like just pointing out both Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and I feel like we've been lax on Michael Sheen because I mean that Aziraphale is just such a fantastic character in this, but obviously we're more familiar with David Tennant's work, so, or at least two of us are. But
hey, he was in Tron Legacy. I mean, he's my guy. Like,
yeah,
I've seen him in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's it. He's done so much fantastic stuff. It's just like in terms of, I would say, the zeitgeist. Like David Tennant
fair.
has been definitely more prevalent in nerdy shit, shall we say? But yeah, I think those two working together and like the little moments that they kind of had there and the way that they kind of lent into that, I thought was great. But I'm going to kind of tie it to a question I was going to ask you guys as well. My absolute favorite moment, or you know, I would say couple of moments in the entire show, is Crawley's last drive with his car.
Yes.
Because I mean that it's so well done, and I don't, obviously one of you is not going to fully understand this reference, or at least fully get it. But for the shot where the car finally sort of gives up the ghost, his will is not enough to hold it together anymore. The director apparently was talking to him about the scene, and David Tennant asked him, like, so what is it you want me to do? Like, is there anything you want? And he said, imagine it's the TARDIS. And David Tennant went, okay, got it. That's, and that's what they went with in that. So, like, yeah, it's...
I know what the TARDIS is.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of moments, if I may, that really stood out to me. One of which, Anathema, great character. The name or the word anathema, by definition, is something or someone that one vehemently dislikes, or a formal curse by a pope or a council of a church excommunicating a person or denouncing a doctrine, or a strong literary curse. So, like, she's an anathema to like the whole end of the world, which I thought was really interesting because she's a witch, you know, and like the whole thing about the church running them down, and you know, the whole witch hunts. Yeah. Very interesting. I liked that. The other scene I really enjoyed is the postman. All the scenes with the postman I thought were really funny. Like just like the audacity that this guy has to walk into like this tent in the Middle East where like there's all this tenseness in the air, and he's like, yeah, I'm here just delivering a package. And then his meeting with death, like 10 out of 10 movie making. Like I thought everything about that scene was fantastic, like from start to finish. And then like I really enjoyed the Shakespeare scene. Of course. Like it's great. But yeah, no, I had a couple moments. Like I said, I think this show is really well shot. I think it's well directed. Obviously it's well acted. But like as someone who's not familiar with the books, I probably like there's probably a lot of things that I missed. But I do appreciate being able to like, hey, that's a nice little moment there. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say there is one thing that I know you mentioned, you know, something that isn't necessarily from the page to the show. There is something that is in the show that, to the best of my recollection, is not commented on at all, but is a direct thing from the book, which is that every single time Crowley is driving and the tape is on, it's Queen, and there's a reason for that, but they don't touch on it at all in in the show, and I don't know if they just they couldn't find a good way of getting a line in about it, but it is such a good holdover, and I was so glad that they kept it in there, because it is like there's like a solid page in the book explaining why that is the case, and it's something that is actually kind of lost now, because it only really made sense when you had like tapes and to a lesser extent CDs in the car.
I've actually had that reference joke bit. I don't know what you'd call it. Spoiled for me, so I do know what you're talking about. I'm trying to remember who did that, but who I was speaking with. But that was like their fun fact about the show. But I won't say it because it's pretty good. I like it quite a bit.
It's a solid joke. Like it's an amazing joke. So I am a little sad that got spoiled for you.
Did you have any of those moments, Anthony?
Well, you took them all. But if I can add one, excuse me. But if I could add one, it is the Horsemen being defeated, because they're besides death, it's just a reflection of mankind, and it's not real. It's something we've made up or have done to ourselves, and like the amount of commentary squeezed into that. What, a minute? How long? That seems not very long. Where he sends the Horsemen off was fantastic. I kept expecting something. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with Horsemen. How are they going to overcome them? Are they just going to send them off? I was expecting some sort of lame Deus Ex Machina, and it's still kind of Deus Ex Machina, but it's not lame at all. It's a kid. The whole scene was very, very well done. And I, in a million years, couldn't have written or dreamed up or imagined a better end to their story arc. With, I guess, leaving death out there, which is kind of a little bit of a plot thread that they could pull, I guess, in season 2. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's
you can't kill death.
Well, yeah, that's kind of that's like the definition.
Well, he's like,
Yeah, it's kind of a thing, right?
He's like Thanos, man. He's inevitable.
Well, I mean,
sure.
I will say, having said you can't kill death, I recommend reading if you do get into the Discworld series, which I heartily recommend anyone that enjoyed like the feel of this, and if they read Good Omens, I heartily recommend you do get into the Discworld books. It is daunting because there are 41 of them, but
I knocked that out this weekend.
Oh wow!
One of them is called Reaper Man, and the entire point is that Death decides he doesn't want to do the job anymore, and ultimately a new Death turns up, and in the end, like only one of them can exist. So like, what's going to happen at the end? And it's really interesting because it's like trying to think of a way of going about this without spoiling too much. I mean, ultimately, there's going to be some form of showdown. So it's like
You're
technically
anticipating it.
one of the deaths has got to die. So it's like so it's a fascinating take on it, and I thought it was a really fun book. It's kind of it's almost the start of the Death books, or like the Death family books. Even though Mort really is kind of the actual chronological start of that, but I always thought that Reaper Man was where Death really got, for want of a better term, fleshed out. So
I just want to say that A New Death Turns Up is like the name of my death metal band.
A New Death Turns Up. That's more of an album name, but okay.
Oh,
yeah, album.
The band is just called The New Death, and then the first album is A New Death Turns Up, or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Death dies.
Yeah. Man, the chances of that having already happened are so high. But yeah, we'll try to make a band. We'll create a profile on Spotify so no one else can take it. Then we'll go learn some instruments. Yeah.
That sounds too complicated.
And then we'll sing, or we'll only have songs that are tangentially related to Terry Pratchett in some way, shape, or form.
If Christopher Lee can do those, what was it? Was it Man of War? I forget. He did that. He did some heavy metal music. It was fantastic, and they were like 20-minute long songs. And we could do entire Discworld chapters as songs, and then we have that's so much material, right? That's 41 albums.
And fun fact as well, in almost all of the TV adaptations, Christopher Lee was the voice of death.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm bringing it full circle. I think overall, just because we keep saying it, the show's really good, and you should watch the show, and you should go into it with an open mind. And yes, it's talking about angels and demons and the Judeo-Christian kind of Armageddon, end of the world, whatever. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your personal beliefs. Like, the show is really well written. It treats the material well enough for you to get in, enjoy it, and get something out of it. Even if you think it's a bunch of, I don't know, hullabaloo. Is that a word? Is that something that people say?
I mean,
I said it.
Technically, hullabaloo would be. I think maybe you were searching for hogwash.
Hogwash. That sounds incredibly English. Yeah. But even if you think it's a bunch of hogwash, you can get something out of it. And even if you end up hating it, look, you wasted less than 6 hours of your life on a recommendation from me. Go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, this show. I think it goes to show how much we enjoyed it. That even though, on this podcast we do spoilers and things like that, we've been just enjoying talking about it and kind of talking around it, because ultimately I want anyone listening to this that hasn't seen it to see it. So I didn't want to do too many spoilers, and I feel like the majority of the show is we haven't really spoiled much. We definitely talked about the things we really liked, but out of context, don't make a huge amount of sense.
Not at all.
So yeah, I think if anyone takes anything away from this other than, well, those guys like to talk about completely different things than the title of this episode, is yes, absolutely, just go and watch this whenever you can. If you have a free Saturday, just binge it. You'll be happy you did. Or do what I do every now and again, which is just put it on at the end of the day. Maybe even if you only get through half an episode, in 2 weeks you're done. So just make your way through it and just enjoy the sort of genuine insanity of some of it, because it's very gleeful. And
it's absolutely, it's just a wild show. Like, I think it's I don't think we've really touched on it, but like, it's very unexpected. Like, all the different moment to moment. Especially for someone who's never read the books, every time we jump to a new scene, I'm like, what?
And then it somehow all ties it together at the end. Absolutely. Yeah. If anything else, even if you hate it, you have to watch it before you can send us hate mail, and we know you want to. So go watch this, and then let us know.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked to anyone that has watched the show that didn't like the show, and genuinely anyone that has spent the time to sit down and watch it has enjoyed it. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I know a couple of people who have refused to watch it because they don't think they'll enjoy it.
Well, they're wrong.
But yeah. Yeah, pretty much that's what I told them. Which I think at this point is just out of spite. They just don't want to watch it. Because he likes being told they're wrong.
They might be doing that thing that Anthony does, because he likes to, when people are like, hey man, have you ever seen blah blah blah? And he's like, oh, I make it a point to not watch these things so I can tell people, oh no, I've never seen it.
Every time someone tells me that I should watch Harry Potter, or that they're surprised I haven't seen Harry Potter, I put it off for another month. So I don't have to watch that movie for another 6-7 years at this point.
So if the inverse is true, all I have to do is keep telling you not to watch it, and then maybe you'll watch it next week.
I haven't thought that far ahead. So you might have found a loophole. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Well, obviously, in your own time, It is definitely. Have you read the books?
No.
Okay.
I read the first chapter of the first book in 2001. There was something about an owl.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
Fair enough. I recommend, if you haven't read the books, don't worry about it. Probably at this point, since the first chapter didn't hook you, you may not enjoy it. Also, at this point, I would argue against sending any more money towards the author of the books because, sure. If you do get a chance to see the film at some point, go in blind. You'll definitely get more out of them than you would if you were to.
Oh yeah, I would never read the book if it's going to spoil the movie. Please.
Yes, you wait till you've seen it, and then you get the book, and then about a year later you read
exactly.
it.
I gotta watch the movie to know whether or not I'm going to enjoy the book. Right.
So that's how it works.
Now that I've upset so many people just now.
I think unless it's something you guys specifically want to go over,
I have one
Sure.
thing, if that's okay. I know we've been going on, but this is a bit. I don't know how much you like bits, Paul.
I can be fond
we
of
have,
bits.
on our podcast, Sci-Fi Wise Guys, we have a bit in which we ask a very simple question of each other. So I'm going to ask you this question, and then I'll explain it if it needs to be explained, which it will. So, Paul, who is Kelsey Grammer? And this means if you had to recast one character from this show, you had to recast them as Kelsey Grammer at any point in his career.
Shadwell.
Who would you choose to replace and why? Oh, really? Okay. Oh, you came in strong. I think you're the first guest, or like whether we've had a guest on or been on other shows and done this bit, who's just immediately known how to answer this question.
Well, I mean, think about I'm thinking of Kelsey Grammer from Frasier.
Of course,
Like his flailing around, like the good God, like that stuff, like Shadwell.
Shadwell. Okay.
As much as I enjoyed Michael McKean, if I had to shove Kelsey Grammer in here somewhere, that's where it'd go.
Fantastic. Chris, did you want to answer this question?
I got a controversial take. It requires some thought exercise, but
is it Madam Tracy?
It should be, but it's not. No, he's Satan. Like
interesting.
Like when he comes out of the ground, it's not Satan. It's just a big blown up version of Kelsey Grammer.
Is it?
Not even that. He's just standing there as Kelsey Grammer.
He's not Kelsey Grammer in like a Hellboy outfit or anything. It's just
no. It's just a huge CGI Kelsey Grammer with his like big hairy body.
Oh no.
No.
Tell you what it is like everything else is filmed like on set, like everyone does see shaking around like, oh no, something's happening, but then for the shots of Kelsey Grammer, it's just him standing on a model village with like the camera down, pointing up at him, and then they just put those two together.
There you go. Well,
yeah, that's what I imagined. I imagined a big Kelsey Grammer, and Benedict Cumberbatch is still the voice.
Wow.
To make it even funnier.
Okay.
Wow. All right. I was kind of stuck between two different choices. I was going to say that he should maybe play Arthur Young, the father of young Adam, just kind of out of nowhere, kind of this like little bit role that is important, but just not the role you'd expect Kelsey Grammer to be in. But I think Chris probably knows who I'd pick. I want to say Gabriel. I want to say replace John Hamm with Kelsey Grammer. I think Kelsey Grammer does the real soft-spoken and then really angry really, really well. And I think he could have pulled it off.
For some reason, I thought you were going to go with Haster.
No, like I think he has to be. If he's going to be supernatural,
it's a little too busy of a. It's a bit too busy of a part. I think Haster's really busy.
Yeah.
And KG's a little cooler.
Yeah, he's got to wear the nice suit.
Yeah.
He's got to have an entourage of beautiful people. Like that's KG. Like season 1 Cheers, KG. Anyways, thank you for indulging in the bit, Paul.
Yeah. So can I tell him the history of that?
I
bit,
mean,
if you
sure.
don't mind?
If you, Paul, if you care, here it is.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Just go watch a movie called What is it? Seven Guardians of the Tomb.
Seven Guardians
right?
of the Tomb.
Yeah, it's Seven Guardians of the Tomb. Go watch it. That's all you need to know. That's the origin of that bit.
Okay.
It's unless you have arachnophobia, in which case do not watch that movie.
I do
No,
not.
Oh, there you
still
go.
watch it, even if you
Oh,
even
no.
if you are
I
scared
mean, I
of
would-
spiders. Yeah.
If you have crippling fear of giant spiders, it's probably not the best thing. But that was the last question I had. That was all I had.
Okay.
There you go.
I guess. Well, you know what? I sort of asked it earlier, but I'm the only one that answered it, so I'll just re-ask it here, and then I promise we'll be done. What moment or like connected moments in this show would you say were your favorite?
100%. It's 50-50. The sequence of events with the postman slash the. I guess it's all kind of one, right? The postman and the horseman. Just that kind of running thread with them. I think that's that kind of mystery. I loved it. I think Chris has already talked about it, so I'm talking about it again. 2 thumbs up.
Okay.
I think my absolute favorite scene, like it's a small one, but when Nick Offerman and Warlock show up to start Armageddon, and like Nick Offerman he's acting like he's so self-important, and it's just like the absolute comedy that like of everything leading up to that moment, like tickles me. Like it's a really funny scene, like in the meta context of the show, but like it's like played up for laughs, but it's kind of like this is a transition scene where we see like exactly where the plot comes to a head, and then it's over like that.
Yeah.
And so
I forgot about Nick Offerman being in this until just now.
Yeah.
Because it's so unimportant. It's so incredibly important, and then immediately not important, all at the same time. Like while it's happening, it's the most important thing that could possibly be happening on the screen, and then it immediately just doesn't matter right after that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, pretty much. I will say one thing that I was thinking of, aside from Crowley's last ride, was the thing that really hit me when I was watching the first episode. That I was like, you know what? I think they've genuinely got it. Like, I mean, the whole part about the universe starting at a certain time, like that was like, okay, that's really good. That feels almost Douglas Adams-y. Like, I'm moderately confident that it's also pretty much directly from the books. So like, I was like, okay, yeah, they kept that in. That's really good. But the bit when God is talking about what happens to the third baby, and she's like, you can think that they took the baby and they put everything, like, if that's what you think, like, good on you. Like, it's just that slight morbid tone that follows it. It's like, what happened to that baby. They're not going to show it. They're not going to give you this is what happened to the baby, but it's like, and it's like they just had that sinister undertone to it, and I was like, okay, yeah, they are willing to keep this in. Like, I'm sold on what they're going to do with this series, and they didn't even necessarily go quite that dark again, at least for a little while, but it was so good to see that they were willing to do that. So yeah, no, that was a good part to me. But I think that final car ride, yeah, that's probably going to be my favorite thing every single time I watch it.
All right.
Yeah, I think with all of that, we've probably spoken for a lot longer than we should have, but I don't care. So, so what I'll do now, I may as well throw it to you guys and just say, like, if people have enjoyed listening to us talk about a lot of things, and then also sometimes Good Omen, they want to reach out to you guys, like, where can they find you?
Yeah. We didn't plan this. Okay.
No one ever plans this part.
No.
I don't know why.
No. Well, it's, you don't plan to talk about yourself. No, so we have a podcast. We're the Sci-Fi Wise Guys. You can find us anywhere that podcasts are. If you can't find us on the service that you use, you can reach out to us. Our Twitter handles at Sci-Fi Wise Guys. We watch straight to stream. I say that we took a little bit of a detour the last few weeks, but for the most part, we watch straight to stream or straight to DVD style science fiction and science fiction adjacent movies, shorts, television shows, YouTube videos, whatever it might be, fan films once or twice.
Distribute
originals, which is a word we found on Wikipedia and does exist. We did not make it up. But basically, if it's straight to stream and science fiction or science fiction-ish, we watch it and we talk about it. So there's a lot of things in there that you've probably watched and heard of, like all of the Disney Plus Marvel and Star Wars, the new Star Trek. And then there's movies that you've never heard of, like Cyborg X or the aforementioned Seven Guardians of the Tomb. Some excellent B movies and some not so excellent B movies. So if you're a fan of anything that might be odd or you're looking for something new to listen to, check us out. We give tons of recommendations and try to make jokes, usually at my expense.
Okay, I have a question for you. I have not delved into your back catalogue very much, so have you guys done Llamageddon?
No. Deep
Llamageddon?
Deep sigh. Is that an asylum film?
No. It is it is a sci-fi horror film.
A killer llama from outer space crash lands on Earth and brings death and destruction to everyone in its path. Comedy, sci-fi. Okay. We do have we have a rule that we won't watch asylum films, since the goal of the podcast is to find those hidden gems, like those B movies or those independent films that most people aren't going to see but are actually really good, which we find a good bit of those. We also find a lot of garbage, and we find that asylum movies are meant to be garbage or meant to be parody, so we stay away from them. That's why I asked, because Llamageddon definitely sounds like an asylum special.
I'd say I do not believe it's asylum. It is definitely too low budget for that.
It's lower budget. Oh, good. All right. I am pulling up the schedule right now, and I am posting Llamageddon right in the middle of October, so that we can get it in our Spooktober list of films. If that's okay.
Spocktober.
Yeah, Spocktober, where we're going to do horror and sci-fi. Yes. Perfect.
All right, well, good.
Llamageddon. Thank you.
You can find us on all your social media platforms at Sci-Fi Wise Guys, and always email us suggestions at sci-fi-wiseguys@gmail.com.
Please. Yes, please. Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm glad that I'm glad I was able to make a recommendation there, and maybe I'll join you. I don't know. We'll see.
I see.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna watch this, you're gonna have to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Oh no!
If you're gonna make me watch it, then by God, you're gonna watch it too.
Oh, I can tell you right now. Myself and my wife watched The Velocipaster one evening, which is, holy shit, is it both incredible and terrible at the same time. I mean, just watch the opening 3 minutes. That's all you need. It's incredible. But after we were done, it was on Amazon Prime, and then it was like people also watched, and like the third one along was Llamageddon, and we both went, we need to watch that at some point. So,
well, we're gonna recommend a movie to you then. Willy's Wonderland.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Willy's Wonderland, Paul?
I've heard of that, but
how do you feel about Nick Cage?
I am a huge fan of Nick Cage, whether he's being serious or whether he's being Nick Cage. So
he's very much both in this film.
Okay.
The less you know about the film, the better. But I will say that of all of the films that we've ever reviewed for the podcast, it is the only one where during the end credits, I went on Amazon and bought the Blu-ray, and so I own I bought a physical copy of that movie before the credits could end because I loved it so much. I thought he was going to give you something bad, like
no, that's the whole point of our podcast. Is we look for movies.
I know, but he just gave us something called Llamageddon, so I thought you were like going to get back at him a little bit, but no, Willy's Wonderland is an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, great independent film.
Yeah, I'll check it out. All right. Well, once again, I think we should probably cut it off. So seriously, thank you guys for coming on. It's been a blast. I always enjoy talking about these things with new people, and it was great having you on. And I absolutely need to get you back at some point. Yeah, maybe it'll be slightly less time, but yeah, I'll get you guys back on. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. And tell you what, one more time, real quick, why don't you guys just give us your handles and everything? Because obviously you gave them during that entirely long spiel about other things as well. So go ahead. One more quick time. Where can everyone find you?
We are the Sci-Fi Wise Guys. I'm Anthony. That was Chris. You can find us on any podcast platform under the sun, or social media. We're on Twitter at Sci-Fi Wise Guys.
All right. Wonderful. Well, yeah, there you go. Go check them out and tell them that we sent you. And yeah, thank you guys one more time for coming back in. It was fantastic having you, and I will see all you guys next time. Bye.
Have a good one.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.